Hey guys, how's it going? Ricky Tuba Da Vinci. Thank you for joining us on another episode of Overtime, our live show where we just kind of talk about our week, what we're up to, all the progress we're making to our net zero build, which is our ultimate goal, and everything else. So thank you guys so much for watching. Let's start with our video this week. We made a video on the cryogenic air battery, which is really interesting. We always try to cover topics on things that will allow us to have a more stable supply chain for batteries, right? Because you guys know I love batteries, and I think when it comes down to it, if we want to switch away from something you can just burn 24 hours a day like we used to do and move to a renewable system, well, part of the equation is you got to have batteries. So this week's video was the cryogenic air battery. Next week's video is a really exciting one that I'm looking forward to, where the team is finishing up right now. It's on a graphene battery. Now, we did a graphene supercapacitor, and graphene has some incredible properties that make it just such a wonder material for engineers and scientists. And so this video is about the graphene battery and how this wonder material, graphene, which we could ever make enough of, could completely revolutionize batteries. It has so many interesting applications. So that's coming up as well. You guys probably noticed we haven't had a net zero build video in a while. And part of the reason for that is because we've been crazy busy with something. I'm not sure if you guys have seen me over on Fully Charged. Juan, can we pull up the website for the Fully Charged live show? So I've been the contributor for Fully Charged for a little while now. So it all started a couple of weeks ago, about a month ago. The team, Jack and Andy, the cameraman, flew out to San Diego. We did some training together. We did quite a few episodes. We did a video on the Model S Plaid, the Ford F-150 Lightning, Aptera, all sorts of stuff. And all of this is in a huge effort to promote this, Fully Charged Live. Leave me a comment if you guys were at Fully Charged Live in Austin a couple years ago. But for Fully Charged in 2020, it was one of the funnest trips that I've had in years. We got a chance to meet a lot of the fans. A lot of you guys came up and said hi. It was so amazing to see people. And we had a chance to run some shows and drive cars. And after a little bit of a break due to the pandemic, we're back. And it's going to be in my hometown, America's finest city, my fair city of San Diego. So I'm super excited. I've been really pushing to get a lot of involvement and interest from people. And yeah, so Juan has the link up. Juan, can we put a link in the chat to the, I can do that right now. So if you guys want to get tickets, here's the link. So follow that link. And I think, Juan, could you use that and make it an actual link with https:// that's clickable. And if you use the code 2bit, you guys, our viewers, will get a discount on tickets. And if you're looking for something fun to do, I know school's back in session, so it's a little bit trickier now that I have kids. My son is in kindergarten. I had an emotional week thinking about the fact that we have a kid actually in like grade school now. But if you guys have a weekend to spare, come out to San Diego and send me a note, send me an email if you guys are in town. Maybe we can round up a bunch of us and do dinner or something. But I would love to see all of you. And this is one of those shows that I'm just super pumped about. I think it's just really exciting. And it's a good reason for us all to get together and talk about sustainability and be optimistic and look at all the cool stuff happening. So it's not just cars. There's going to be, home tech, heat pump water heaters, all kinds of cool stuff. And quite a few of the companies that I'm working with or have worked with are actually going to attend. So that should be really fun to see people there. And like I mentioned, we'll put a link. 2bit is the coupon for the coupon code. And we hope to see you guys there. All right, you can probably come back to me. So let's talk about that. So that's been kind of all encompassing. And here's why. So a month ago, they flew out. We did all those episodes together. And now we're actually doing another episode for Fully Charged, not on our channel, on the Fully Charged channel, on if the U.S. can cope, if the U.S. grid can cope with a full life, a full life of EVs. So if every car on the road right now that's gas converted to electric, could the grid cope? And there's a question that we see all the time. And so that's what this video is about. I think it's going to go out next Thursday on Fully Charged. So stay tuned for that as well. If you guys haven't heard of Fully Charged, it's one of the most awesome electric vehicle sustainability YouTube channels, and I'm super honored to be the contributor for North America. The team is really laser focused on emissions and things, so they hate traveling and flying if they don't have to. So what they've wanted to do is cover more North American topics. F-150 Lightning, for example, wouldn't have been possible in the UK. I don't think they'll be taking them out there. And so now I was able to just, I'm in San Diego, between LA and San Diego, just a drive of a couple of hours. I can go to a ton of stuff. Aptera, we did that video. And in the future, I'm gonna have to travel, but it might be a lot shorter. And that gets us to the next thing. One, see if you can pull up a little, go to Canoo's website. So the reason why there's no home builds is we've been busy with that leading up to the show. And on Monday, we're flying out to Dallas to meet with Canoo. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with Canoo, but they've got this really interesting concept. That's cool. So they've got an interesting concept for, vans, deliverators, cars that can kind of, revolutionize that last mile delivery. And we're actually going to meet with the Walmart team as well. And they're going to kind of show how the Canoo vehicles are going to be able to, kind of revolutionize that last mile delivery. Because Walmart obviously is not going to sit around while Amazon is killing it online and delivery. So Walmart is making huge strides there, and they're really, really focused on not adding to their carbon emissions by doing so. So they're going to be partnering with Canoo, and we're going to be out there meeting with some of their key executives from both the Walmart and the Canoo team. So this video will be going out probably the week after that on Fully Charged, again, on their channel. So if you haven't already, head over to Fully Charged and subscribe. That should be fun. Look at this thing. All right, how cool. I'm not sure if Dusty's in the chat, but Dusty, if you're watching, how cool would it be to get one of these and convert it into an RV? That's gonna be my first question I ask him, like that one right there. This is the one I want. If I could get that vehicle easily, come back to me. So if I can get that vehicle, man, I would do that in a heartbeat and do a little conversion, put solar on top and just make it an RV. That is a plan that I've been thinking about for a while, is getting some old RV and converting it to pure electric with solar and kind of travel around the world. The problem is I have kids now and they're older, they're in school. So yeah, I feel like my life has changed quite a bit. There's probably a window there a couple of years ago when they were still young that I could have done more of these kinds of adventures, but we're going to try to do that. Really quick question for you guys before we start. I did a little poll today, but I'm really curious of all the kinds of content that we make. Yeah, thank you, Brewster, for putting the code. It's all caps, 2-bit. That's right. Thank you so much for that. So I have a question for you guys about the content that we make. We never want to rest, and YouTube is so competitive, and we never want to just keep doing the same thing. We want to keep up in the ante, keep doing new things. So one of the things that we do this live show for is to connect with all of you, get your feedback. You guys know, I've seen some pretty harsh comments, and you guys know I respond, and I'll tell you, noted, I'll think about that or work on that, right? So I really care. I want to know what you guys think. So of all the content we make, we're starting to do, we do science, future-looking, breakthrough, battery techs, or emerging things that in 5 years from now will completely change our lives in a positive way. So we do those. We're going to keep doing those. Those are kind of the bread and butter. But we started to do, and that's on Thursday. We started to do on Tuesday the net zero build. Now, that's where my passion is. You guys have known, I want to do this net zero house where I'm this off-grid, completely, self-contained home. And that's the goal. But the problem with that series is it's very time consuming and very expensive. So the trick here really is to find a way to fund that entire enterprise with our Thursday science videos. So if you guys watch any of our videos or do anything, it's supporting us, right? Because we're actually doing pretty well as a channel. We broke over 2 million views a month, which is a record for us last month. And we're kind of hovering around 2.5 million views, which is double what we used to do. So that, that's huge, and I really appreciate it. You guys, some of you have commented on the clickbaity titles and stuff. I've responded to some of you. I hate doing it too. I used to have very academic titles, or like ready for like a science literature. No one was clicking, right? It's just a competitive world, and you gotta catch someone's interest. So that's the whole goal, is to use our Thursday videos, our sponsors from those videos, to then be able to go buy things. One of the first things on my list is a heat pump water heater for the main house, which we're going to do that after we go solar. And that's really the holdup, because I don't want to add more electrical appliances until I have solar panels, because our bills are already kind of outlandish. So the idea is that we're going to do a ton of stuff probably after the show. So bear with us until September 10th and 11th, Fully Charged Live San Diego. Until then, we're going to be pretty busy with Fully Charged. They're really ramping up the work. And after the show, it's going to calm down, and maybe I'll do one video a month or two for them, and it'll just be a very laid back system. And at that point, I'm hoping that our solar will be ready to install as well. I told you guys last week that I'm going to go with a ground mount solar system. And the reason is this roof problem that we have, where we have an old roof. It's just been kind of bugging me, right? Because I don't want to have to spend 50 or 60 grand before getting solar right now anyway. It's just not feasible where we are right now. You guys know I moved into our new house almost a year ago now, which is crazy. But all those extra costs, our team has grown. I'm trying to make it all work. And so for that reason, a ground mount system is a cheap alternative. And Juan, I'm gonna test Juan. Juan's back here under the camera. Do you have the drone shot of our house that you could show? Go to our website and there's a video you can play that shows it. All right, so Juan's pulling that up. Our house is actually zoned for 3 properties. There's a little lot off to the side that's just dirt right now. And we've decided it's not permanent. We're gonna have to figure out eventually what we're gonna do. But what we're gonna plan is we're gonna put a ground mount system over there for the next few years to get started. And then eventually, if we need to, we can take the panels off and put them on the roof when the roof is ready. But we just don't wanna wait anymore. We have YouTube channel to run. We have content to make. We have tons of stuff to do. And we want to make an entire series on going solar. So imagine a 5-part series, like 10, 15 minutes each, where every question all of you guys have is going to be answered. You're going to be like solar experts. And also, we are working with some developers to build a new website we call 2-Bit Energy. Yeah, so I think this is the video. If you play it, so look at the roof. Here's our roof, not in the best of shape. The solar pool heaters have got to go. And then over there on the right is our office. And then on the left is what I'm talking about. That area to the left in the shade there, that's where we're going to do a ground mount system. Our goal is about a 10 kilowatt system. And we are working with a company that we want to promote for people local here in San Diego. These guys do solar, they do electric vehicle charging, a ton of stuff. And they do really good work at a really good price. They're a really premier place. They are the people who install EV charging at car dealerships and all stuff around here. So really excited to be able to try to get the best prices for our people trying to go solar. And we're building a website. We mentioned it's going to be 2bit.energy, we think. And I want to make something that's going to blow your guys' minds, where you can put your address. We can show you a model where the panels will go, the shading levels, and what you can expect. So imagine that you can come in, either for free. We could try to help you out as much as we can and give you like a base idea. And I'm thinking we'll have some sort of a paid option, maybe like $100 or $2. We're gonna have a chat with me, you upload your bills, and we will tell you like by the month, by the season, by the year, and when you'll pay it back. And we'll give you advice on whether you should go solar or not. Because for some of you, if you have really cheap prices, it might not be worth it, right? And I don't care, I'm here for you. So it's gonna be a really refreshing resource. It's not gonna be those stupid ads I see on YouTube all the time for don't go solar, the government will buy it for you, all this nonsense. Like, if you guys see those kinds of ads before my videos, I'm sorry, I don't control that, YouTube does. And these guys pay a ton of money to run these ads, and I don't like any of them. That's why I'm building this myself with everything that I've learned. And it's gonna be epic. It's gonna be like an engineer's guide to make it simple for you to understand all your data. So really excited with that too. That's gonna come after the show. If we can get our ducks in a row, I'd love to get the solar installed September or October. And at that point, we'll have a ton of content around the entire process for you. And the website, hopefully we can get that up in the next couple of months. We'll keep you posted on that as well. And then the home series can really kick off at that point. I'm hoping October, November, December, like the last 3 months of the year, we just, we really start making progress and start flying. We are, our views are up, so our money is up, so we are able to do some projects and stuff, and we'll share all that with you. So Tuesdays, home, Thursdays, the future looking tech, and live shows on Saturdays to just hang out and talk with all of you guys and see what you guys are up to. So if that sounds good, yeah, please do subscribe and let me know. I'm just taking a look at the channel here. So Tailwind says this channel is awesome. I appreciate that. Thank you so much. I've never seen you before. I try to remember all of our viewers. Thank you for saying that. I really appreciate you. However you found us, please hang around. The Stealth UCAV says sodium ion batteries. You read our mind. It's on our production board, and it is being written and researched right now. The way if you ever wondered like the way our videos work, we have this we use Notion for organizing everything. And what we'll do is we'll research ideas that we think can do well. because a channel our size, we can't afford to have too many duds, and we've paid for that over the years. So we're trying to have more hits, right? Because as you get more hits, you get the views up, you start to grow, and you can do more things, and that's the whole goal, right? So we'll pick topics we think will do well. The sodium ion battery, I believe you're probably thinking of CATL, who's the one who's really commercializing it right now. That video is being written and researched. That process takes about a week. So once the research and writing happens, I'll review it, I'll add things, we'll take things away, we'll do the whole thing. Then I record it and I give it to the editing team. And our editing team takes a week. So typically a video that you watch 12 minutes of takes us about 2 weeks to do. And that's why I needed to have a writer and an editor, because the level of detail that was going into these was just beyond the scope of work that I could put in. So whenever you see one of our videos, and maybe in a future live stream, we'll have the team back here and we'll show everybody. But you guys have probably seen Juan or Brim, and there's also Ali, and our writer's name is Matt. So it's like a team of 4 or 5 people making content for you guys. So yes, that is coming up probably in 4 weeks, I would say, because we do have quite a few topics before that. Yeah, so some people are talking about going solar. Stefan says, I'd love to go solar. Yeah, imagine if you could have all the data as if you had gone solar before you spent a lot of money to see what the buyback period would be, to see how much money you could save, to be able to build in, okay, I want to get an EV, or I want to get more electrical appliances and ditch natural gas. Can I do it? Imagine being able to see all that data without having to spend a ton of money. So that's kind of our goal. Chris says trees are a must. It just is. Yes. Chris, there's nothing I love more than trees. I love the East Coast, for example, because it looks like there's just like a wooded forest, and they're just kind of cut down in an area where a house is. But anywhere there isn't a house or a road, I feel like it's forest, and I love that. It's the part about San Diego that I wish I could change, is I wish there were more trees, but we have to be pragmatic. I actually do have to cut down 1 tree probably. So my plan is to plant 2 or 3 others to replace it. So Jan Class says, sodium ion batteries, is that solid state? No, it's not. It's, instead of using lithium ion, it's the next element down in that same row of the periodic table would be sodium. So it's just an alternative, and sodium is way more abundant, and so it would just be a more scalable battery. But it has its own challenges, and that's why sodium ion batteries have never made it till now. So I think CATL's got some stuff that's interesting. The silent one says, what about reducing the heat in cities by adding some shade, some damn shade in the cities? I'm with you. Whenever I go to a parking lot and I park my car, I'll walk an extra quarter of a mile if I can find a spot where I can park my car under the shade. I'm with you. We are cutting down trees and we're putting concrete. It's a terrible balance that we're doing. But anytime you can put trees somewhere, I'm all for that. Yeah. Early on, you got to water it, but once they get older and they get their roots down really deep into kind of the water table, they're just kind of a no-brainer. So Sina Model says, believe it or not, I've been watching your channel for a long time from Iran. What's up? That's amazing. You are so inspiring to our technology team and our small technology company. Oh, that's amazing. I really appreciate that. That's awesome. I'm so glad to hear it. You might be the first viewer that's mentioned that they're from Iran, so that's amazing. Hope you're doing well over there and staying cool. It must be really hot, I would imagine, but that's awesome, man. Yeah, there's a lot of interesting questions about how to do cooling and save money. Speaking of which, one of the next home series, and I don't even think Juan knows about this. I chatted with a company that does an HVAC system, and it's kind of like a hybrid geothermal or ground source heat pump type system. But what they do is they basically bury like a 10 foot by 10 foot, like a 3 foot by 3 foot meter water tank in the ground. They bury it about 3 meters deep. So yeah, that's not cheap, but it's way cheaper than a traditional loop system for a ground source geothermal heat pump system. And then that water transfer is way more efficient. Water conducts heat way more than air does. And so this HVAC system, my house currently 3,000 square feet, I need 5,000 watts, 5 kilowatts, right, for my AC to run. That's the compressor and all the systems. Their system, they were telling me, could do the same amount of like BTUs, the same amount of work in terms of moving heat and cooling my house, while only using around 2,000 or less watts, 2 kilowatts, right? That's a massive reduction. And the way they're able to do that is by having this water tank that's buried underground. So I'm really excited to have that installed because my AC is old. It doesn't really work that great. I can leave it on 24 hours a day. It does work, it does cool, but it's my house is getting hot. And as I've mentioned, the insulation is very bad too. And then they also have the ability to run DC solar into it. So if I install this above near my garage, for example, maybe in one area above the garage, I can have solar panels, straight DC, no inverters, that goes right into the system, and it can power off of solar when the sun is shining. And they're saying 5 or 6 panels, and you have no heating or cooling bills. Also, so 3,000 watts less to run. It can run on direct solar panels, right? Juan's over there shaking his head, but it gets better. The third thing is right now I have a heat pump, right, air conditioner, but I have a natural gas heater. So in a couple of months when it starts getting cold, doesn't matter what my AC, how great it is, I'd be running a natural gas furnace. This system will replace that. So it's a reversible heat pump system. It can replace where the evaporation and the condensing happens, and it can become a heater as well. And so using the same water in the tank in the wintertime, I can get rid of natural gas and have a very efficient heating solution that runs on solar panels, right? So get rid of natural gas, reduce my electricity consumption by 65%, run on solar panels directly on DC, and then also they have a water collection system. So the condensers where the cold coils are will actually collect all that water, and I can use it for whatever I want. My plan is to collect all the water and use it for irrigation. So you guys have mentioned I have a ton of trees. I don't know if you saw in that drone shot, tons of trees. I have grass, I have plants. We have a farm. My wife grew a ton of vegetables this year. So that water could be used for that. Or if we had a water shortage or the water was cut or some crazy thing happened, we'd have a means of producing water right out of the air. So that is the win-win-win-win. So I'm really excited about that one. That'll be a future video that's going to be a lot of fun. Hope you guys subscribe and stay tuned on Tuesdays for that, probably in a month or so. Another home series video coming up is on the Span smart home panel. You guys are probably familiar with Span. They're one of the most cutting edge companies when it comes to your electrical panel. So you have the main power coming in from the city, and that goes into your service panel, right? The circuit breakers. And what they do is they make a smart version of that. So you can monitor every load independently. It can give you alerts like, hey, this circuit that never normally uses much electricity suddenly is using a lot of electricity. You can go figure out what happened. You could even, you can soft trip circuit breakers. Like if you're installing a fan, you could go hit a button on your phone and turn a circuit breaker off, go do your work and turn it back on. It's really, really cool. And the coolest part about the Span, and we've been in talks for a year. The last year before I moved, I told them, let's wait because I'm probably going to move. I don't want to do this now. And even now, the coolest feature, the reason why I've been chatting with them is because they can connect to your solar panels as well. Let's say I have microinverters, I have solar input. It'll know, okay, this circuit is solar input. And then from there, it can detect, okay, he just turned the air conditioning on, so he's using 5,000 watts, for example, and the system is making 8,000. There's only 3,000 extra, and then the Span has a car charger that you can install, and it's connected to the panel, so it knows, and it'll just provide 3,000 watts to your car. Now, let's say the air conditioning turns off, well, it can dial that up to 8 kilowatts, right, and charge your car faster, and then a pool pump turns on, it can taper that down, and it can just charge your car with the excess. That is such a cool feature, and you can imagine how hard that would be to build yourself, right? You'd have to put some CTs and monitor real-time usage and constantly be changing the amperage going into the car. It would be a hard challenge without what they're doing. So super excited about Span as well, because again, I want to have a net zero house, right? So I want to try to keep all that at home as best as I can. Let's go into the comments here for a little bit. Let's see. How do you transfer heat from the boiler to the house, air or water? Stefan, are you asking about that cool HVAC company I was talking about? I'd have to, yeah, I'm curious. But yeah, I think they have some coils that run into their instead of an outdoor system that just blows air over a fan over some fins to cool out to the air, they run cool. It's like a cooling loop for your computer instead of air cooling for your computer. Junker says water from AC mini split systems can be a bit of a struggle. Minerals have to be added. Yeah, so the water you would get from a pure air from water system, water from air system would be just pure water, right? And it could potentially have some dust and debris in the air or on your coils and stuff. So you would have to take that and then do something with it. Now, a lot of people have reverse osmosis systems, and they have the same challenge. RO water is pure water, and you don't want to drink pure water because it's so pure it could leach minerals and things out of your body. So you don't want that. So you'd have to add some minerals back in. The same thing here. But to start with, just use it for irrigation. Like right now, the biggest usage of water in our house, believe it or not, is our plants, right? And it's been a hot summer, and I don't want my beautiful green house to go all brown, so I've been watering it. So you can start with that, just dump it on your field. And then if you needed to, like I mentioned, you could probably run a little spigot through a filter, add a little mineral pack, and make it potable drinking water as well. So Stefan says, how do you heat your house today? Today, I heat my house with a natural gas furnace. So typically in America, what you'll see is a heat pump AC. Every AC is a heat pump, right? And that will be for the cooling side. And then for the heating side, we have natural gas typically, especially in older homes where natural gas was cheaper and no one thought about it too much. Increasingly in California, we're ditching natural gas. So I think in the future, homes won't have natural gas lines at all. And it's already happening in certain parts of the country. So we have a natural gas furnace. So the same blower system, the same ductwork, but the heat source is a separate furnace where, natural gas is ignited, heats up the air, and it blows throughout the house. We have a ton of Canadian viewers, I know that. David says, hello from Tobermory, Ontario, Canada. I've been to Ontario many, many times. I've not heard of Tobermory, however you pronounce that. But cheers, it's really good to see you, David. I love Canada. We've been there, how many times now? 3 times in 2 years during a pandemic, so you can imagine. And we used to do a lot of work before YouTube in Canada as well. Huge fan. The Great White North, yeah, Chris, that's right. Solar is the best. Says Jansky. I agree. I cannot wait to get it. It's driving me crazy that I don't have solar yet. So to be fair, I do have solar for the office, but not for the main house. Yeah, I can't wait. Yeah, so here comes Tiffsman says from Chilliwack, British Columbia in Canada. Tons of Canadian viewers. I see the analytics and stuff. There's actually an increasing population of people from the UK. That number's been increasing. India has been increasing. Canada's always been really big, so it's pretty cool. Technophile says, Ricky, are you aware of any solar options for renters? I can't believe you just said that. Absolutely, I am. I am working with a company who is in their final stages of securing everything. So we're going to have a integration when that does happen, and maybe a home series on it too. But there's a company that builds a head unit, like a smart meter, that you attach to your service panel. So it detects how much power your home is using. And then they have inverters, so you can just put solar panels on a deck, on the ground, right? You can just lay them wherever you like or hang them if you have the foldable ones. And you just plug it into an outdoor outlet. And what it does is it says, okay, he's using 1,000 watts. And if you have more than that, it'll taper that down and just provide 1,000 watts, and your home would be using 0 overall. And then suddenly your AC turns on, and if you have more, it'll dump more. But the beauty of this system is if you're a renter, when you're done, you just unplug it, take your panels, throw them in your truck, take this head unit off the CTs, throw it in your car, and you just move. Nothing is permanent if you didn't want it to be. Plus, you don't have to have any agreement with any utility or any permits or anything else, because you're not backfeeding. All you're doing is cutting the usage that you have locally. Super cool. It's one of the coolest companies I've been waiting to chat with you guys about. So that's coming in the next month or so as well. Glenn says, any thoughts on the cheap cylinder panels that are available on the secondhand market these days? Glenn, send me a link to those panels. The reason why the company went bankrupt, I'd have to look more into it, but it wasn't because they made a bad product. It was just, I think it wasn't really cost competitive. And so sometimes when that happens, these products become very cheap. It's kind of the same thing with Lime and some of these EV scooter rental companies. You've seen those where they just litter downtowns of cities with these, rent by the hour little scooters. And sometimes when one of those companies goes out of business, the company that actually produces the scooters before they white label their brand on it, they'll have like thousands of extra scooters sitting around. And sometimes you can get one of those for a super discount. Doesn't mean the scooter's not good. It just means that company's not buying them anymore. So yeah, send me a link. I'd love to look into the Solyndra stuff. It's a funny story. Let me know if you guys want me to make a story about it. I feel like the haters would watch it. Like, Solyndra failed. Why? What happened? It could be interesting. I actually could probably learn from that as well. So Jeff says, the problem with getting rid of gas is I hate electric cooking. My mom says the same thing, and I think I hear you on that. So remember, it doesn't have to be all or nothing. If you got rid of a lot of other, you don't care if you have a hot heat pump water heater, do you? I mean, it heats water. So I would say you don't have to get rid of anything you don't want to. Our strategy, I think, is we're going to get inductive cooktops and go electric and ditch natural gas. I think we're not there yet. And then what I was thinking is on our deck, we have a little natural gas barbecue. And if you want that kind of flavor, the char, we could use that. That's kind of what I'm thinking, but we haven't fully decided that yet. And I hear you. I hear you for sure. It's not that simple. So I think there's a little chat about heat pumps. So Ewan says heat pumps significantly more efficient in San Diego, just not in Seattle. So Seattle would be great for heat pumps because Seattle, you're not getting Canadian winters and stuff. So even if it is freezing out, heat pumps do work because you got to remember freezing is still 273 degrees Kelvin. There's still a lot of energy in the air. And so you can actually extract heat from even freezing air. It's just that the coefficient of performance that heat pumps are known for, you're not going to get 5x, COP of 5. It'll be 1 or 2, right? And if it's 1, then you can just get a resistive heater. You're not gaining anything. But I think even around freezing, it's still more efficient than a resistive heater. So Junker says heating with a heat pump costs about the same as heating with gas in California. So, the natural gas market is crazy fluctuating. And unlike gas for your car, like anybody who has a gasoline car, those prices, like if there's a change in the climate and there's more demand or supply, those prices fluctuate all the time. But what happens for utilities is that's not the case. So I'm afraid even if natural gas prices go down, that we'll be charged a ton because our natural gas prices shot up 50% for 2022. And even if that does change, I don't think I'm going to see those savings for a while. So it's a little bit trickier. It would depend on a lot of factors, but heat pump heating definitely could make sense, right? Because especially if it's 5 times more efficient, COP of 5 compared to a resistive heater. So that's kind of the premise there. Yeah, so you have to, and part of what I want to do is I understand that you guys are all over the world, and I do want to make my recommendations based on where you live. If I'm not doing a good job of that in my videos, send me a message, keep me honest. I'll be sure to do that because you're 100% right. I think the strategy should be strategic to your location, your region, and not just like a one blanket fits all. Like maybe where you live, it's really windy. Maybe you should go with wind turbines, right? Instead of solar panels, I don't know. We're looking on Amazon for the best rated micro wind turbines and maybe getting 2 or 3 of them, installing them and seeing how they work. The only problem is here where we live in San Diego, it's not very windy at all. It's really nice and calm. So we definitely don't live in the right place for that, but I'll do it in the name of science. I don't think it'll cost too much money. And I would love to, even if we could produce a little bit of electricity at night, that would be so cool, right? So that's kind of what I'm hoping for. And with our SPAN smart panel, we can monitor all of that over the course of like a year. So imagine 1 year from when I get my SPAN installed, let's say it's next month, I could have data that would be so amazing, right? How much did that heat pump actually use for the year? I would know because the heat pump water heater would be on a dedicated circuit, right? I could tell you exactly what that would be. And I could tell you how much the pool pumps were using or anything else. It's just a really exciting look, and I'd love to explore more. So Jan says, after 20 years or so, solar panels are ready to be replaced. Think about all the panels worldwide that have to be replaced. Jan, good question. So after 20 years is not true. So I had them for 12 years. My panels are going on 12 years old. And what's interesting is until recently, I still had the Powerwall data for the house that I sold. So the panels on my house are now 12 years old, and they're at around 90% efficiency after 12 years. And I think at 20 or 25 years, it would be around 80%. And even then, if you don't want to, or you don't want to spend the money, you wouldn't have to. I'm not sure if anybody in the chat today is, but I have viewers who have told me, I think I know of 2 people from Australia who've had panels for over 30 years, and they said that they're producing like 68 or 70%. But so what? They look fine and they're working. And that's the thing, is solar panels are getting better like everything else, but they're not really scrapped. And honestly, what I would imagine will start to happen is when panels get really old, imagine companies that will just round them up and sell them to developing countries maybe for dirt cheap prices, right? And they might have another 10, 15 years of life after that. And beyond that, Matt Farrell, my very good friend, has a video on this very topic that you guys should go check out. For we don't have any thought right now to do a video on what happens to panels after 30 years and recycling them. But if we get enough interest from you guys, we can make a video too. But for now, go to Undecided with Matt Farrell. He has a video on that very topic. And you got to remember, so what's the alternative, right? So think about this. A solar panel, you produce it, you manufacture it, you ship it one time, you mount it one time. Tons of jobs are produced all along the way, whatever else. Now, for the next 30 years, you don't have to really do anything. If you have really bad dust storms or something, maybe you got to get up and clean them or something. Odds are you don't have to do anything. And they produce electricity every day. And if you couple them with batteries, you can store some of that extra and even push yourself out through the night. Okay? In comparison, if you don't do that, what are you doing? Burning coal? Burning coal is still a thing, and especially in some of the in states like West Virginia here in the U.S. You burn coal for a couple of for like an instant, and then it's carbon in the air forever, and then you got to keep burning coal. You just keep burning coal. Imagine how much coal you would have to burn to make how much electricity panels could make over 30 years, right? So, and don't forget that coal has to be mined and refined, and natural gas is the new kid on the block. Same thing. It needs to be fracked and mined, refined, and then it needs to be pumped, and there's a whole slew of challenges. Solar is amazing. It's not even like it's one of the most no-brainer things I've ever covered. And now financially, you'd have to plan to figure out what your buyback period would be, and that's why I'm building these calculators and this whole website just for that. You should be able to take your data and know if it makes sense for you. But for if you live in California, if you live in San Diego, and you don't have solar, I don't know what you're thinking, because our electricity prices are so high and the buyback period would be super low. And also, solar helps you sell your house. I had a Powerwall and a 5 kilowatt solar system. That was a huge selling point. That's what everybody saw that, and it was a huge reason why we sold. And so even after 10 years, it paid itself back in 8. So for 2 or 3 more years, it was pure profit. And then after that, we recouped all of our cost. At the end, when we sold our house sold for about $30,000 more than another house that didn't have that. So paid itself back, made us a little bit of money, and then we got all that money back when we sold the house. Makes sense. I don't want to keep rambling here, but solar panels are amazing. Definitely. Anything pop out, Juan, in the comment section? I'm trying to track everything down. So Mike, this is great. I love this comment. Mike Haggerty says, I have a solar-powered calculator from 1976 that still works. That's incredible. Now, if you have those lawn lights that you can plug in that have solar panels and a little battery, and if you ever wonder, after a couple of years they stop working, it's not the solar panel, it's the battery, right? Those are batteries that are very cheap. They're not really made to last very long. And there's no software to control the state of charge. They're probably discharging to 0 and 100% every day. But it's not the solar panel. The solar panel on that little lawn light will last decades, long after the metal frame has rotted probably. But solar panels are pretty amazing. And they're so amazing, in fact, that that's one of the reasons why it's really hard to compete with them. So perovskite solar panels, or some of these thin film, some of the other approaches that we have, they have to compete with solar panels that last 30 years. And that's why we don't have them in the market yet. They're just that good. Somebody, let me see, I just saw it. There was a comment about the cost has to get to, let's see. I'm trying to find that comment. So I'll try to find that again. Sina says, what do you think about the future of batteries in the next 10 to 15 years? How much capacity for batteries do you expect? In the next 10 to 15 years, I think we're in the early days of this battery boom. And so in the early days, you do what you know, right? If you think about like our history, the last 100 years during the Industrial Revolution, we knew, which was burn stuff. We just burned stuff. That was what we did. And then nuclear comes online, and then wind and solar and other things. So in the early days, we're going lithium ion, right? Because lithium ion is the tried and true king. But there's challenges, I think. I don't think there's going to be enough lithium ion battery materials to get to where we need to be in terms of capacity. And so that's where I cover all these topics: cryogenic air batteries, right? Sodium ion batteries. We're doing a video on a Finnish sand battery. Has that been recorded yet? Yeah, we recorded it. It's being worked on. So we cover these things because imagine a world where there's hundreds of different types, right? We did an iron flow battery, which is on our channel. You can go check out. But the reason why is because if you invest in everything, who knows, maybe there's some breakthrough that makes one of these things just really pop as like the obvious winner. Not to give anything away, but the cryogenic air battery, one of the challenges is you need a heat source to kind of start discharging it, right? Which you don't want to waste energy to. Imagine if a lithium ion battery needed energy to start working. That's not good. But what if you co-located these cryogenic air batteries near power plants or iron smelting locations, right? Big industrial operations that make a ton of heat, and you could recapture that heat in interesting ways, right? So there's no one size fits all. I think we need to be looking at all sorts of alternatives that can lower the demand. So what you want in everything when it comes to in engineering is you want stability over an entire area. Imagine if you looked at the day of electricity usage where you live, right? You're sleeping, it's very low. You wake up, you turn on your coffee maker, that's very high for a moment, and then it comes back down, you take a shower, that's not electricity. And then you go to work, nothing. And then you come home, you turn your air conditioning on, you're watching the game, you're watching TV, it goes up, and then you cook and it goes up, and then you go to bed, and then you charge your EV and it goes really high. That's hard to predict. That is, all those little spikes are really, really hard on the grid, right? If you drew a line of all the Earth's crustal materials, it's the same thing. The Earth's crust is made up of all this stuff, but there's a huge spike when it comes to lithium, nickel, manganese, right? Cobalt. So we're strategically mining out only a certain few elements, right? And if we keep doing that, it's going to end up being a problem. So instead, what if you took, like, aluminum is actually a great material for a battery. It has other challenges, and maybe it's not as energy dense, right? But could you live with that? If you were building a huge shipping vessel, do you need the most, energy dense battery? Could you live with something a little bit lesser, especially if you can cover the entire ship with solar and almost, what if you had enough solar to propel the entire ship and the batteries could be smaller or something, right? We could get clever. That's what I think the future is going to be. A ton of different options. And that's why those are the topics that I love researching the most. The funnest thing that I get to do at Tuba Da Vinci, because I have an editing team now who's really taking care of the video side, the funnest thing I get to do is research some of these topics and look at some of the crazy insights I get to learn. Here's a fun fact for you. In the process of writing the script for the Fully Charged live show, the Fully Charged episode that we're doing on if the US grid can cope with a world full of EVs, I found some pretty interesting data. So we would need 1,000 terawatt hours of 1,000 terawatt hours of electricity on top of what we're producing today to power all the cars in America, right? That's about 3 trillion miles driven. So we would need about 1 terawatt hour, 1,000 terawatt hours. So to replace all of our gasoline infrastructure, if we got rid of the refineries and the entire process of gasoline production, not including other things like natural gas and other things that are involved, just electricity, that's 1/10 of it. So just stop making gasoline. We're 1/10 of the way there. Interesting, right? It's a huge number. I was really shocked by that. So that you'll see that video going out shortly. It's going to be interesting. But the research for some of this stuff is really, really interesting. So Jatsky says aluminum air is 8.4 kilowatt hours per kilogram as pure metal. Yeah, the challenges with aluminum are, aluminum's a great choice, and I think I'm all for it. It's the most abundant metal on Earth. So I think I'm all for using aluminum in interesting ways. That's just the smartest thing we could do. And we keep the lithium and the manganese and nickel. We keep those really high density chemistries for the most important applications, like maybe your smartphone, right? You don't want a huge thick smartphone. You want to have a nice thin one. And that's a small battery. So we could make all the phones and all the laptops in the world and use much bigger batteries for grid. For the grid, I want to see the most environmentally friendly batteries. And I don't care if the efficiency isn't as good or the energy density isn't as good. I think we just need to make a ton of solar and wind and find a way to get there. How are we doing on likes, by the way? How many likes do we got? That's pretty good. So yeah, if you guys are liking this, hit that like button. We appreciate the fact that you guys have joined us today. What else? What else can we talk about? Juan, what's going on with you? What are you up to? You excited about Dallas? Canoo? Yeah, sure. Juan's a big fan of Canoo. I am too. And they've got some interesting stuff. I think they've stumbled and they've had some challenges. And I think it's been a function of what every EV company has to deal with, which is it takes a ton of money to build your own factories and stuff. So the cool thing with Canoo, I don't know if I told you this one, is they are going to outsource manufacturing to a company that does manufacturing. And I think that's going to be the future. I think in the future, we'll see hundreds of electric vehicle makers with their own unique twist and take on things, but they're not going to all have factories. It'll be like AMD. AMD comes up with a design for a new CPU, and then they outsource the production, the fabrication to TSMC. Mike says a thorium mini plant. Interesting. So we have a video on thorium reactors. They're definitely very, very interesting, and we need to look into them. Stefan says, have you seen the flow batteries from Red Flow? Well, I'm going to ask you to check Notion to see if we have Red Flow. Just see if we have that as a card. We've had, no? The Red Flow? Yeah, let's take a look. So Red Flow, Stefan, is currently not something we're working on, but we're going to add it to our cards, and we're going to go take a look at it, because you're the fifth or sixth person who's told us. So the first thing I'd like to do is I'll try to reach out to him and see if we can do either an on-site, check out their plant, or at least an interview with somebody over there, and then we can kind of, So this is definitely going to come this year. We'll have a video on this for sure. Interesting stuff. Yeah. We did do a video on another company called ESS that has an iron flow battery. So it's similar stuff. I think, correct me, Stefan, if I'm wrong, but I think Red Flow is from Australia. But we'll see what happens. Maybe we should go to Australia this year. Jansky says iron air battery, 1,200 watt hours per kilogram. What's interesting is in engineering, everything is a trade-off, right? If you want the strongest metal, you want and the lightest weight, you want titanium. So strong and light, titanium, amazing. There's a problem. Titanium is very rare in the Earth's crust. As a result, it's very expensive. So you can't just go build everything out of titanium. It would just cost too much, and no one could afford the product that you make with it. So if it was 20% more efficient because it was 50% lighter, but no one could buy it, you haven't accomplished anything, right? So engineering is about those dials. Cost, efficiency is really important, right? If you have 100 kilowatt hours, if you have 100 kilowatts of solar beaten down, and you have this power coming in, and efficiency is all about it when you put it into the battery, and then life, full circle when you get it back out again. How much of that 100 do you get out? If it's 80% efficient round trip, then you only get 80 kilowatts out, right? Or 80 kilowatt hours if you're storing it. So then as a result, you've just lost 20% of that energy. But what's the most important thing? If solar panels are super cheap, do we just produce a ton more than we need and we live with a less efficient battery that loses more than other types but is super abundant? That's the interesting challenge, right? And that's what I think all these companies are trying to do is they're finding their part of the market and saying, okay, we're not the most of this, but we are super cheap, or we're not cheap, but we're great at this. We have really fast discharge. We have really long life. Like some of these batteries can last a long, long time, right? The cryogenic air battery, for example, there is no chemistry. It's just air that's being frozen to a liquid form. That will last forever. But then there's maintenance with the pumps and all the compressors and all the hardware that has to run. And so that's what the cost for the cryogenic air battery would be. None of those costs are there for lithium ion. For a lithium ion battery, there's no pumps, there's no hardware. It's just a chemical reaction that you allow to happen across the membrane. So it's interesting. Oh, we got a Thunderfoot. We got a Thunderfoot sighting. Thunderfoot busted the iron air battery. Okay. Thunderfoot is almost always right. Let's talk about Thunderfoot. I actually would love to chat with him. I don't know if I showed you this one. One of his really early videos, he sat down with the Westboro Baptist Church and he was chatting about creation or something. It was he's a cool dude. I would love to chat with him. Maybe I'll reach out to him and see if he wants to be on the show and chat. But my big takeaway with Thunderfoot is you have to, we saw the optimism, like, oh my gosh, there's this cool stuff. It could be big if X, Y, and Z happen. He's kind of the opposite. He's, everything's busted. But a lot of the videos that I watch, what I feel like he doesn't understand, or what I feel like he's not thinking about is, it's not about being busted. It's about if the cost is worth it to you. We talked about this last week, I think, too. Jatsky says Thunderfoot is trash. He's a very polarizing person, and I actually like people like that. I think they're fascinating. I would love to chat with them. But what he says is, okay, this costs too much. It's busted. It's pointless. Like, maybe for you. Is a Mercedes S-Class, is a Rolls Royce busted because it's too much money, and a Honda Civic can do the same thing for less? Not to a billionaire, right? So I think what it comes down to is you have to look at the pros, the cons, what does it cost, what's the value, and you have to make the assessment of like, is it worth it? So I feel like he doesn't often do a good job of that. I would love to do that. I think he's a really, really interesting dude, and I would welcome it. I think it'd be a fascinating. I bet you we'd get a lot of views too. And I think he has a chemistry background. Clearly a smart guy. I'd love to chat with him. I'll try. So Apache says, if our government cared about our country and climate, they would have invested the $700 billion into something that would help us rather than hurt. You want to elaborate on that? So Jan seems to be a fan of Thunderfoot. He's a fantastic, realistic scientist. I don't know. I've talked to some people in the various sectors and stuff. I think he's maybe a little bit hit or miss, but I'd call him a pessimistic scientist, right? He's the person who, like, for example, he talked about this video and he calls something busted because their prototype battery is a small thing, right? If all scientists were Thunderfoot, we'd be living in caves with sticks and fire, right? Because if you're not crazy enough to think that something can work, your life will be exactly what it was yesterday. So I will balance out what you said with that and say it is really it's really important that you're crazy a little bit. If you don't spend money, if you don't invest in something that seems like a moonshot, then we don't have any of the stuff in our life that I think we can all agree is pretty normal now, but it all seemed crazy, right? When the automobile first came out, people thought you were crazy because I'm talking about just a gasoline car. It's like, how are you going to ever fill these things? You're never going to find gasoline. You're stupid. Just buy a horse, right? So I think you have to have ambition. And that's why the greatest group of human beings on earth, to me, engineers and scientists. Because what they do is they sit out there and they go, this shouldn't be possible. We shouldn't be able to fly in a metal tube at 35,000 feet. And then they figure out a way to make it happen. Right? When everyone else says you're stupid and crazy and all you've done so far is a little right wing, a little flyer that flew 20 feet, busted, it's done. The crazy ones just kept at it. And now we have commercial travel and you don't even think about it. You just hop on a plane and fly at 35,000 feet. I can go on and on about this, but it's Jan says, no, that's not true. What's not true? Let's see. Let's let's wrap up the Thunderfoot stuff. This isn't about him, really. I will just simply say, I think he's really fascinating. I think he's probably right about a ton of stuff. He's needed too in the world, right? You can't just have optimism, because then you might have a bunch of suckers that are trying to sell things and dupe us, right? So Thunderfoot does a majorly important service in the world. He should keep doing that. But we also need people that are doing the opposite, the optimism, and trying things out, because you never know which one of them can stick. Paul Smith had laws of physics. Okay. So what else do we got here? Tom says, if you don't risk, you don't gain. Absolutely. And Jan, I can point to some videos where he's been flat out wrong as well. So he's not like, he's a human being who makes YouTube videos just like I do. But Beach Crow says 8 more likes for 100. Is that right? I think so. I would appreciate that, all you guys. Ewan says diversity is key in all things. I couldn't have said that better than what you just said. Absolutely. We need people with different approaches, different ideas, and different takes, and different levels of optimism or pessimism. Couldn't agree with you more. I love that. I love the idea that that we have great conversations like that. And to me, you guys, I don't know if you guys know this about me. Part of what I do these live shows is you can kind of get to know me as a person a little bit more. But for me, having a debate or like a conversation with somebody who has wildly different views is like my favorite thing in the world. I would love nothing more. I know that people can get offended and all this stuff, but I try to be, but just kind of convey my side of the equation. I've had talks about religion and politics and stuff, and it can get kind of heated sometimes, but I really do enjoy a good conversation. And that's really, at the end of the day, if we could all do that and listen. The other thing too is, like, I'm very I'll change my mind. Like, if I heard something and I was like, wow, I didn't know blank, completely changes how I feel about something. So those are some things that I think are important. If we could appreciate the diversity of thought, right? Like, think about, all the great times in history when a ton of different people got together, the Library of Alexandria, Iraq in those early days when, like, math was really taking off. People from all parts of the world got together, thanks to trade and commerce, to chat and read books and exchange ideas, and here we are, right? So it's very, very, very important. And the second thing is, you have to have, if you think you know everything for certainty, the problem with that is you're never going to change your mind, and that's a dangerous thing, and I think that happens a lot in the world as well. You should have conviction and believe in stuff, but you should have an open ear to hearing that maybe you're wrong. I'm wrong all the time, so it's easy. Maybe it's easier for me, and maybe some of you guys are never wrong. I don't know, but for me, it's not a problem, because I know it's part of the fun is learning, and learning sometimes means you get it wrong. This has been really fun, you guys. I'm thinking about the next couple of weeks here. So we have travel, we have the graphene battery coming out next week. I spent a lot of time on that one, kind of talking about the different ways graphene can be a game changer. The challenges are probably, you can probably guess what the challenges with the graphene battery are. It's just producing graphene in any kind of volume to bring commercial scale and cost. But just a game-changing material, it really is, for a ton of stuff. So we have that coming up next week, and we got to get that video wrapped up on Sunday because we're traveling. Juan and I will be in Dallas. Anybody in Dallas, let us know. Maybe we can grab dinner or something. I'd love to do that. I try to meet viewers wherever we go. I remember we met some viewers when we were in Toronto this year. We've met some viewers when we were, whenever we travel, we like to do that. So let us know. And we got a video on Canoo for Fully Charged. And again, Juan, bring up the Fully Charged page. Want to remind you guys again about the Fully Charged show. This is one of those things that happens once a year. Hopefully this happens again next year for Fully Charged. It'll just depend on how it all goes. But if you guys are looking for something fun to do and want to come out to San Diego, if it's your first time, it's lovely. Septembers are nice and warm and nice here in San Diego. It's pretty much nice all the time. But the show is going to be a lot of fun. There'll be a ton of EVs, a lot of driving opportunities. And I think for the lot of you guys, you smart guys in the room, you're going to just love the chats that we're going to have, right? We're going to have a lot of debates, and we'll have panels with a bunch of industry experts. We'll have like a bunch of YouTubers there. Robert Llewellyn will be there. fully charged team. I'll be there, and it'll just be some good conversations and a good chance to all chat. And I think it would be super cool to get drinks or dinner or just meet any of you. So if any of you are coming to the show, email me. I'll pin that again. I'm happy to do it. If any of you guys are coming to the show, let me know. Maybe we can make a big group list and make sure that we all hang out and chat and have a chance to connect, because I think it would be just a fantastic opportunity. I met a lot of people that I've kept in touch with at the show last year. Did you remember Mallory from Austin? She was in our geothermal video. Remember that one? Yeah. So I remember she was one of the first people too. And like I said, I remember all of you guys. So we were at the Fully Charged show. You can come back to me. We were at the Fully Charged show in Austin in 2020. And what we did was, come back to me. So what we did was we had a chance to just meet all of you for the first time. And I still remember Mallory came up to me and she was the first person. She was like, Ricky, I watch your videos, and wanted to take a picture and stuff. And it just stuck with me. And we've kept in touch. We hung out with her. We had a Archimoto in Austin last year. And we went out to her house. She wanted to play with it and just drive it for a little bit. So she did that. And she's actually even been in our video. She was in a video about geothermal, because in Austin, in her community, all the new homes were built with geothermal built in, which is super cool. So yeah, come chat and let's make sure that we get a chance to connect. So Mike says, we hope to make it to the show in Vancouver next year. I think I'd go to that too. I love Vancouver. Amazing food. I like all Asian foods, and some of the best, like dim sum, Chinese food. Some of the best pho I've ever had was in Vancouver. Really, really good food. Really good times. I'd like to be there too, for sure. So Apache says, think about all the science that has been stunted due to people's egos. Yeah, I mean, science is a pure thing. It's a very pure pursuit, but the people involved or there's so many things that have to go into it, because you need money. You got to fund science, right? So it's a complicated thing, but to me, I like to focus on the purity of the science and not everything else. Like Solyndra, right? Solyndra is used as an example of why green energy is dumb. The story of, it was like deeply invested in with Obama back when he was president, and it went bankrupt, and you see it's so I don't like that, because what you're doing is you're taking politics and spending and all these different things and then saying, you see, solar panels are dumb. No, they're not. Solar panels are everywhere. Some of the biggest job growth sectors are solar installers, right? It's not that solar is not good. The science behind it is not good. You're pointing to a political thing that happened, and So anyway, I like to think that we all just. I think we all just should be optimistic that there are really brilliant people doing really great stuff, and nothing brings me more joy than researching those topics and making videos about it. That's literally why we got into this business. So, yeah. Jan says having an open mind is also about being a skeptic. Yeah, absolutely, definitely. So I think we'll call it for the day, guys. Thank you. So again, sorry, no home series for a while. That'll probably continue up until the show, to be honest with you, because they're going to have us do a ton of stuff. We also have a new video for Fully Charged that we're going to do on vehicle-to-grid buses, school buses. So, currently a school bus does work for about 2 hours a day and then sits around doing nothing for 22 hours. So imagine if instead you plugged it in and that big battery could levelize the grid, right? There's a bunch of extra solar. Charge these school buses. We need energy. Here you go, right? So that should be a fun one as well. So we have a bunch of cool ideas coming in the next couple of weeks. And don't forget to subscribe to Fully Charged as well. I'll be making content for both channels, and that's a long-term thing. But there'll be a boost in content creation for a while leading up to the show. They want to just try to reach as many people as they can, and I want to do the same thing too. Come see me at Fully Charged. I'd love for you guys to come if you're able to. Thank you guys so much for joining. As always, we really appreciate you. It's always good to see the chat. There's a good chat about science and everything else. I love this stuff, guys. Thank you for joining. You guys just made my day. And yeah, don't be a stranger. Email me. Keep the ideas coming. Red Flow battery, that we are going to add it to our list today.
Already done.
Cool. Thank you, Juan. So to be realistic, we're now shooting several weeks into the future now. So that will maybe be end of September, possibly, something like that. So keep your eyes open. And Philip says, what's the purpose of a live stream if you don't answer questions? Is there a question that you asked, Philip? I've been trying to. I mean, there's a lot of questions. In my opinion, I love this. Engineer, my dad used to say, when in doubt, do something. Even if it's wrong. I love that. I'm the same way. I love that. So Philip says, what's the purpose? Yeah, so Philip, I don't know what you're on about, but if you had a question I didn't answer, there are a lot of questions, and I'm trying to read them as I go. But if I didn't get to you, I'll try to get to you next week. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'm Ricky Tuba Da Vinci. This has been Overtime. We'll catch you guys next week.